Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I am joined by the amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael, back from Biloxi. I know you're doing amazing, but I would like to check in with you anyway. What's wonderful unfolding?
3 days without thinking about anything, 3 or 4 days without thinking of anything is always a good little respite, and that's, where I've been, just taking that time to just chill and recharge. And now I'm ready to rock again, which is a lot of fun. So,
hooray! Hooray!
Yeah. How are you doing?
I am absolutely amazing. Thank you for asking. I feel so blessed. I've had so many things come into alignment in the last few days, including new windows ordered, and I'm accomplishing a lot. Sometimes I don't. I feel like I have so many different things on my plate, but they always seem to get done. And sometimes the ones that don't get done, I just put them on the universe's side of the plate until I'm ready to tackle them. So, yeah, but I take time every day in the morning and practice my gratitude and listening to 2 inspiring books. And so I kind of been going back and forth between the two. And I think that sometimes life imitates art, and in my world, sometimes life will come and give me a lesson and just bring forth lots of different things. So today I asked Michael, I said, if we could please talk about the power of pause. And the reason that I wanted to speak about this is because it's one of the lessons and one of the things that I have really implemented in my life, taking 3 deep breaths before I make any decisions or before I react to something, whatever it is. I think I have said before on this show that I like to, if I notice something that is a trigger, I try to self-correct. I look at what is it that I need to heal in myself. I practice Ho'oponopono. I practice a lot of different things. So the reason that this got brought up, I had one of my dear kitties that was elderly crossed over the last few days. It's just one of those things that it was just his time to transition. And I had a very nice evening with him before he left the planet and told him how much I appreciated him and loved him. And he slept next to me until he was ready to jump down and leave. So I have a little pet cemetery in my yard because I have an acre. So I have quite a few of my departed ones that, I like to keep them with me. But we have had incredibly warm weather and not a lot of rain. And so the ground has been very, very hard. And I had started to dig a hole, and it was not very easy. So I asked a friend of mine, actually shared with him, I was on the phone, and he said, you know what, I will come help you. I'll dig the hole for you. And he's just such an angel in my life. I think I'm so blessed to have a friend that is that caring and kind and compassionate. And so we had made plans. I had been out on another part of the city, and he said, I am going to bring my pickaxe and some shovels because he said, I don't trust that you're going to have the kind of shovel I need, which I had to laugh because he had done some weed whacking for me. He said, I've seen your weed whacker. I could just imagine your shovel. So I had to laugh about that. But so he said, I said, well, I'm stuck in a little bit of traffic. I will be there in about 5 minutes. He said, well, I got my shovels in the car. I'll meet you there. I'll probably beat you there. So I got to the house, and I didn't see him. And I thought, okay, well, I'll wait. And this was, I guess, around 7:30, and I waited, and I kept busy. I always keep busy. And then after an hour passed, I thought, well, I wonder what happened, and tried to reach him via phone. He didn't answer. Via text, didn't answer. And then I thought, well, you know what? I felt a little bit hurt because I thought this is something important. I want to get my cat in the ground. It's hot. I don't want to leave him out. I don't want to put him in the freezer. I just wanted to get it done. But I thought, I have other things to do. And so I kind of transitioned and I went a different direction. And by the end of the evening, I I thought, geez, I really don't understand this. And I looked at it and I just paused and I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to heal something. Why am I feeling hurt about this? And so I did. I sort of took a moment to pause and just reflect and let it go and realized that whatever would unfold, I'd find out the next day. And that's sort of what happened. So we had a thunderstorm. I went to sleep. I actually worked on the computer late. I think I went to bed at like 5:30 in the morning, which is typical of me some nights when I get busy. But shortly after I lay down, I got a text message, and it was from my angel. And he said, oh, my gosh. He said, I decided I would take a nap in my truck. He said, I'm less than 100 feet away from the house, and I had the windows down. I fell asleep. He said, I just woke up in the thunderstorm. And I thought, oh, here, I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't neglected. I wasn't any of the things that I could have gone into energetically. I wasn't angry, for not having somebody there when I thought that they should be there. I had just let it go. And it was that power in that pause. And he was so apologetic and so kind. And actually, we took care of the cat, and he carved out a very special marker for the cat yesterday. And said, I've got this. But it was a very powerful reminder to me about not being in judgment, not being reactionary, not sort of getting caught up in all of the stories that I could have, or the scenarios that I could have imagined in my head. And so that was the inspiration for the topic today. And I would love to hear your thoughts, Michael. Has there been a time in your life where a pause has made all the difference?
Interesting question. First off, thank you so much for your story. That's fantastic. And one that I think that kind of thing is sort of natural for me now too. If I'm expecting someone and we've made an agreement and they don't show up for one reason or another, I kind of take it as a sign that I'm not supposed to dig down into, jump down into the lower frequencies and get frustrated and upset by it. To answer your question, I had a friend who passed away when he was 60 years old, not a day after his 60th birthday. He was one of my best friends for a long time, and one of my closest friends. And he had this little quirk about him, and of course, the word quirk is kind of a judgment, but this is just the way he was, and I came to accept it. But he would say, yeah, I'll be there about 6, and he either would or wouldn't show up. Right? He's like,
interesting.
I learned, and I'm like, what happened to you, man? The next day I go, what happened to you? It's I got this thing. He was kind of like he flew by the seat of his pants. That's basically the terminology that I could best say it. He did what his intuition told him to do. He'd run into somebody. Invariably, it had to do with a girl, but because he was a guy, and some women were always calling him. And I'd say, okay, that's no big deal. But I said, I would never, because he'd say, okay, I'll be over. I said, come over for dinner, man. Yeah, I'll be about 5, and he'd never show up. So I learned simply to say, okay, when he'd say 5, it's not a hard and fast 5. It may or may not. So I will go about my life as if it didn't happen and be very surprised if it actually happened, if he came over, right? And when I adopted that mindset, I never got frustrated or upset if he never showed up or if he did early or whatever. And there'd be many times, by the way, I would need his help and he would actually be there. I said, I need help moving something. And he'd be there right there on time, sometimes a little early, and he'd help me out, do whatever I did. But it was something casual, like a meal or, just getting together, meet me somewhere, that wouldn't necessarily be a hard and fast thing. It was a floating maybe, right? Maybe it was a floating I'll be there. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just learned, and I've applied that same thing with other friends, and I've told my girlfriend, I said, even if someone says they're going to do something, anything could come up, and it's best not to plan your world around someone else arriving, because all that happens is you get, when they're 5 minutes late, you start wondering. When they're half an hour late, it's like this volcano that starts building inside, right? Volcano of explosion, of what the heck? It's just frustration. It's like I did all these things, and your mind goes down this trail of I did all these things to prepare, and we were supposed to do this, and it was that. You're supposed to be my friend. You're supposed to call me because you got a cell phone, and you didn't. All you got to do is communicate with me. I mean, you could go through these myriad of different negativities, right? And you can put yourself in that state. And then when they do show up, or if they don't show up and you talk to them the next day, you're either the first thing you're going to do, because you've literally built up all this frustration, anxiety, and anger inside of you that you just explode. Now, to them, it's just another day. And, they may or may not have thought about it, or something might have come up. But to you, you've spent the last 12 hours, 24 hours in a state of complete negativity, right? You literally drank the Kool-Aid, and you're operating from lower frequencies. You're ticked off. You got all these whys and hows and how could yous and why did you do this? All those kinds of questions. And when all you really need to do is just say, you know what? I'm not going to create my life around somebody else, whether they do or don't arrive. If they do arrive, I'll be ready. If they don't arrive, it's not a big deal. I'll have leftovers if it's dinner, and I'll have a plan B. And that's what I told to my girlfriend.
Right.
I said, have a plan B. Have a plan B, and know that if plan A doesn't work out, you just simply shift over to plan B, and that's pretty much it. And it's not a big deal. You don't have to beat them up about it. You don't have to get upset at them and angry at them and yell at them, because people, if this happens 3 or 4 times to somebody, they get judged and branded as they never follow through, right? When it may be just that, like my friend, he was just living by the seat of his pants. He was just whatever intuition told him to do, he did it.
Right.
And that was it. And to him, everything was great. And then sometimes they come back to you and they go, "Why are you so upset?" And you're going, I know. Why I'm so upset, blah, blah. You were supposed to this, and all of a sudden it just comes out like the volcano implodes, right? And so, and they feel bad, and you're going like, I had to get this off my chest, right? You should never have to get it off your chest. It should never be there in the first place.
I agree. And even in my text message communications, I just said, well, I guess another bird swooped you up, not realizing. And what's so interesting, all I had to do was walk like maybe 20 feet down the street. I drove right past him, didn't even see his car. And I took it as, well, there were things that I really needed to get done. And so I just went on with my evening. But it was that power in that pause. And just as you said, I love that you mentioned communication, because it really is. When you pause for a moment, it does allow you to be able to foster an understanding and empathy and communication, and just that interpersonal. As you said, you sort of let it go. You let it go. You didn't allow it to affect your day, evening, whenever it was that your friend was supposed to meet you. You just transmuted it into something else. You said, okay, well, that didn't work out. And you never know when somebody may be in an accident, or here in Pittsburgh, the construction is over the top. And so you think you're going to get somewhere, but you can't get there from here. And it never fails that some road is closed, and then you think you can go a different way. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And who knows what it was that you were meant to prevent. And I think that really we have different moments in our lives when we can pause. I think that when we have a big decision, taking a moment to pause and collect your thoughts before making a really powerful decision. A lot of us do that. Some people don't. I've always been sort of, okay, I need this. I needed windows. So I kind of like examined all of my different options and then remembered a resource that I had and reached out to them. And I got a great deal on some windows. And it didn't have to be the scenario that I was extending myself more than I wanted to get brand new windows for a house. And I feel blessed and had some delightful conversations as I was ordering my windows today. But it's that pause allows you to have that opportunity to weigh both the pros and the cons and kind of anticipate potential outcomes. And I think that then you can align your vibration, your choices with what your values are, your goals, whatever that thoughtful approach will lead you to. And sometimes the pause will allow more information to come in that you didn't expect. Maybe you'll run into somebody unexpectedly in line and they'll say, oh, yeah, you're getting windows. Well, don't get them here. And they'll give you just the most amazing resource that you never would have even thought had you not taken that moment to pause. And I think pausing is different than procrastination. Yeah, I thought about that. I thought,
totally different.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Procrastination, putting something off that you know needs to be done. And there's two things. Sometimes I'll put something off because I want to intuit a different way of doing it. It's not an emergency. I just want to think about it for another few days or a week. And because there'll be something that, Sandy says, I got something broken at the barn, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to, instead of putting down everything and rushing up there to fix it, or adopting the first creative solution, I might say, let me think about it. And I'll go about doing other things, my business, and then it'll pop into my head that, why don't I do that? Here's what I can do. I can go get this saw here, get some boards there, go up, take care of this here. And she did this when her air conditioner went out. She's got two tack rooms. One has and both of them have, wall air conditioners, right? The window air conditioners that are actually put into a wall, not a window. And so you have to kind of Jimmy Jack the surroundings. Somebody else did it the first time, and I'm just going in there, taking an air conditioner out, and I don't even know how it went in there, right? So in the first place, so I have to intuit a creative solution to get it out. And in the meantime, I'm learning about how it was put in the first place so I can put another one back in there. And invariably, they're different sizes, right? So,
all the time.
Yeah, they're all
it's just like plumbing.
We're talking 15 years later, okay, this thing is going out. And now you got to go buy one. And the first one I bought, believe it or not, was too big. And so I had to go back. Yeah, so I had to take that box back, and because either I drive 30 minutes out. I was, how big is this thing? I remember it, blah, blah, blah. It's a wall air conditioner, whatever, window air conditioner. And I went and we bought something too big. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Then I get out to the barn, and I got all my tools and everything else and discover, and it's literally a half an hour between each place, right? So I drive out there, and it's the wrong one. And I'm like, look, can't do this today. I'm going to take a measurement, and then we'll take this one back, and I'll get another one, and I'll get out here. And in the meantime, I can see what I'm dealing with, and then I can take some time to think creatively about how I can put this in, how I can get the other one out, I can get this one in, and how I can secure it in the back, and all. You have to see how somebody did something, and sort of reverse engineer the thing coming out as it's coming out, and knowing now here's how I can put this in, and here's what I'm going to need. It's extra, some padding, some foam, some insulation, whatever it may be, and it's fun. To me, that is fun. Getting a latch off of a horse gate door, a stall door is it needs to be done. They rust out, and then we don't replace them when they're in the process of rusting out. Usually, it's when the door falls off, and this door weighs.
Oh no!
It weighs 100 pounds easily.
I was going to say they have to be heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they're thick. They're 4 inches thick. They're all wood, 2x4, this and that. And when it falls off, then it becomes an emergency, right? So she's going,
oh, sure.
I need to have this door put back on. The door fell off. And I'm going, okay, immediately rescue. Let me go, let me go get some brackets, and I'll get my drill, and I'll get some screws from Lowe's and big bolts and other things, and I'll get way too much stuff so that I can not have to go back, right? Because there's different options going through my head, and sometimes you don't have the opportunity to take that pause. But generally, I will say, I need to think about this. I'm just going to, I know that needs to be done. Let's just, because there's very, very creative ways that you can intuit to do things, and it's not always the first way that is the most effective or efficient way of doing something, and sometimes that's a very expensive way of doing it. You don't always have a carpenter on hand to whatever, but I'm pretty handy with a saw and screws and bolts and these tools that I need to take care of. And hey, it's pretty cool. And if something needs to get painted, and a new pump house had to get painted, and this is a little house. It's a mini house, like 5 feet by 3.5, 4 feet, and it stands about 5.5 feet high, with a roof and shingles and the whole 9 yards, right? And a couple of doors, and I'm looking at this thing, going, okay. I looked at it, and she says, yeah, we got to paint that. I said, yeah, I got to get some caulk. 2-3 tubes of caulk. I got to caulk all the seams and everything, make sure this thing lasts for the next 20 years, and then get the paint. We got the paint already. I got to get the right brush, trim brush, this brush, rollers. I got to make sure I get all that together, and then I can have fun doing it. It took me 3 days.
You do. I know you do, because I checked in with you.
3 days in the heat.
Wonderful, though.
Sweating my parts off, but
I have to applaud you for that. Yeah, you didn't procrastinate. You didn't say, I'm not doing this because it's too hot. I mean, you are in Florida. This time of year is going to be hot.
Rain.
So if you want to get it done, right.
Rain is possible. You have to look at if rain gets into things, mold develops, and so the thing is to weatherproof this thing. That's really what you need to do. Weatherproofing is both caulk and paint. So I said, yeah, fine. It's just, it's this. If you approach things from a perspective of, hey, it'd be fun to do that. It's not a chore. That list I have of to-dos they're not chores. They're opportunities to either escape something else, opportunities to have a single-minded focus or purpose, and they're sort of meditated from that perspective. Because generally, if you're really breaking your brain to remember something or to attempt to figure something out, the best thing to do is to go do something else. And
you're right.
Release the tension associated with the mental tension from having to figure something out. You can go do something else, and it'll pop right into your head, and you just keep moving on.
I know. You don't ever avoid anything. I mean, you don't. And you said you're not putting it off because that mold would be a detriment to. It would just create more problems for you than what you were even having in the beginning. Just completing the task, and that's when I was thinking about the difference between procrastination and pausing, I think pausing is really a conscious decision, and it's all about creating space. And I love the idea of creating space. It gives me clarity. I can reflect on things. It opens up for me anyway, that perimeter of possibility that we talked about before. And I think about a lot of times I really admired Steve Jobs. He was, as the visionary founder of Apple, there were so many different things that he did. And a lot of people don't realize that when he and his team were going to release the iPod, their prototype was promising, but it wasn't perfect. And, there's a lot of pressure. You got your stockholders, you have all these people that are putting pressure on you. I mean, they do these fabulous Apple launches of their newest, greatest things, and this was a new product. And he basically said, guess what? We're going to take a step back. We're going to not do this right now. We're going to really take a look at the design and the aesthetics and what the market potential is, and then He let it. He
better.
Found the right time. Yeah, he found the time, and that iPod really. I mean, it became. I don't know anybody who didn't have an iPod. It transformed the idea of your music being able to be with you, and so in essence, I mean, it's not about avoiding action, but it's about optimizing what you're doing and investing that time. You know, that same adage. You know, measure twice, cut once. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I measured once, and then I cut it on a piece of wood on my saw, and then I go to put it in. I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
So I got to find some more lumber. And I know better. But it's that moment, if I would have just taken that moment. But it's that self-correction. So the more that I do it, guess what? I'm an intelligent young lady. I can figure things out. I can learn from my mistakes. And I try to, like what I said, even with this situation, and I went on with my night. And I thought, well, I guess maybe I should have looked down the street. But then also I thought, well, he was really tired, and he probably needed the sleep, and I really needed to get those other things done. So it all unfolded perfectly.
True.
And I came up with a topic for the show because of it.
That is true. You know,
multiply blessed.
Here's one thing about procrastination is it has a negative connotation. Generally, you're saying to yourself, no, I don't want to do that right now. You know, you feel you dip down into negative frequencies and that's not the place you want to be. So if we're self-empowered, we can fully are empowered to control how we feel, what we're thinking, and how we're responding to things in life, and creating our world around us, creating our reality, so to speak, which you and I both believe in. And we're doing all the time, whether we like it or not. We're creating our reality, whether we're in control or not. We're still creating our reality. If I have a reason for not doing something, if I don't want to do something, let's put it this way: if I have a golf game already decided with people, I'm not going to be doing to do something else. I'm not going to the barn, right, to paint that thing. I will work around it. I'll say when I get done with golf, I'll head out to the barn. Yeah, it will be 110 degrees in the shade, but I prepare for that. Right? I got ice water with towels, and I've got ways to stay cool. I got a fan. I got, whatever. I can deal with that. If the chore comes first, if the chore came first, then I don't play golf. I just say I'm not going to go into any angst about whether I have to say yes or no, or if I say no, I got to move this around and all that. I just say, look, guys, I got something to do. And we have this pact with each other, and that's the other thing too, is that if you're busy, you're not and are unable to play golf because you've got a to-do list that needs to get done, you just say no, and we all understand. Nobody gets upset at anybody. We say, okay, catch you next time. Because I'll play golf by myself. If nobody can play with me, I'll go out and I'll meet somebody new. Or in many cases, they go, yeah, I've seen you playing out here. It'd be nice to play with you. And they do. They come and they play with you. Or it's somebody who's always out there that you don't have a number of and their phone number, but you see them on a Saturday or a Sunday early in the morning. They're single and you play with them, right? They go, yeah, we played together once before. I've many times I'm out there playing. Yeah, I played with you. When was that? About 5 years ago. And I'm like, I don't remember that. That they play, but I go, hey, it's great to play with you again. I'll just move past it, because it's not important to go into the nuance of why you didn't remember their name or that you played with them. That's not important. What's important is the new experiences being created, being in the now, creating experience right here, right now, and it's
sure.
It's fun.
And I'm sure that as you're playing, if the shot doesn't go the way you want, you taking a few minutes to pause or a few breaths to pause, whatever it is, allows you to kind of size up the green and figure out what might be your best angle. And I think it's a great metaphor for life. I love that you're doing the golf videos because it's not just about golf. It's really about life. It's all about
the what's who was it that called it it was a guy by the name of Bobby Jones who created Augusta and the Masters, the whole Masters, which is like the most famous tournament in the entire world, said something very profound. I put in a video the other day. He said the game's played on a 5-inch course. It's not played on the course you're looking at. It's played on the one in your head all the time. And I remember that because I've had some of my best rounds playing a course I'd never played before, ever. And I know what I'm doing. I'm playing the course in my mind. Because when you it happens in golf, it happens in relationships, it happens in everything else. You develop these perceptions about things, these preconceived ideas and notions. If you're doing something all the time, if I go out and play the same course all the time, I'm eventually, and it could be after the 5th or even the 10th round, you're playing it in a mindless manner. If you played it hundreds of times, you know every nuance of every place, every spot you could end up. And in many cases, you've been in places that you shouldn't be, but the last time you were there was 15 years ago. You're just having a game that's off. But what I'm saying is that we develop these ideas about how we should do something. If we're doing something, and in relationships, you're with the same person all the time, and it gets to the point where you're thinking. You start to answer the question for them instead of asking them. And really, what you should do is to ask them, because they do change, and you don't know when that change is going to happen. When they might give you a different answer. Like, my girl or my wife or my husband, my boyfriend, they never eat asparagus. No, they won't asparagus. And then one day they're going to say, "Yeah, I want to try your asparagus." And you look at them like, "Who is this person?" Right?
I understand.
Yeah, you know what happens. It happens with asparagus. It happens with I'm going to take a different way. This guy, what? What do you mean you're going to do that? And and then they start thinking, if that's changed, what else has changed about them? What did I miss? While I'm off
over asparagus.
Yeah, because all of a sudden they like asparagus. I did that.
You're right.
That's a true story, by the way. I didn't eat asparagus until I was 35.
I was about. I don't even know what age, but I didn't eat it as a kid either. I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm not trying that.
Look at it. I didn't eat salmon until I was like 30. Well, I did eat it as a kid. I stopped eating for many, many, many years. But I mean, fresh salmon out of Monterey Bay or something. You have these. You change. Your taste buds change. Your thoughts change. Your experience of life.
Yeah, you do.
You might have been exposed to something and actually developed a positive connotation to it instead of having the negative connotation you had. You transformed that negative to positive, and now you're thinking differently, and now you're asking for different things. And if you're with somebody, I'll just simply tell this to all of our audience out there here on PRN FM and on our podcast, Connect to Love, that communication is always key. If you have a change that you'd like to make in your life, let it be known and communicate it to your significant other. Maybe communicate it in a positive way to them. That's a good thing. Hey, you know what? I haven't done this. I think I want to do that. I want to give that a go. Next time I go to the restaurant, I'm going to order some asparagus, and they're going to go, "What? What brought about that?" I don't know. I just,
Are you having an affair? You must be having an affair with somebody who likes asparagus.
That's exactly that. All of a sudden, new ideas and thoughts that are outside of your preconceived ideas about that person, your preconceived notions or your perceptions about them, bring up other things. Well, like I said, are you having an affair with somebody? Where did you have asparagus and you liked it? And it was without me. I mean, I don't know. You say, I was out with the guys and I had asparagus. It's like, it doesn't matter how it happens. The point is we all change, and just like our thoughts change about life.
Without a doubt, sure.
Right. Come home and decide, I want to retire in 5 years instead of 10. They're going, what happened? I want to go to Europe. I've never been there before. Well, you never like to travel. You never like to well, where did that come from? Yeah, it came from just some inclination you had. You were exposed to something. You saw something visually. Yep. It looked interesting, or maybe you said, "I want to overcome my fear of flying."
Oh, absolutely.
I want to face my concern about train rides or long car rides or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's we all change, and the longer we're with one, the more we will continue to change and transform. And we have to recognize that that is going to occur, and be ready for it, and be open to it, be encouraging it, because that's how you keep things fresh and move forward and continue to expand your own energies together, even though you're expanding your own independently. So, the pause thing, procrastination, pausing, there's good ways to procrastinate, good reasons to, if you attach, and I like to always attach positive reasoning behind everything, and if I don't do it today, it's generally because either I want to think about it or it's inconvenient for me to do it today. I can't dedicate the time to it today that it's going to take to get it done right. I don't want to go out there and just do it, halfway. I want to be able to do it right, and that's going to take another day for me to think about it, or another week, or whatever it may be. And it's great. Yeah. That's the way life is, What you said earlier about reflecting on opening gateways is also true. I just want to tell you that. It's gateways of thought, gateways of creativity, gateways of inspiration is what taking a pause can do. And the pause may have you pivoting in a completely different direction. It just made me do it, right?
Dr. Joe Dispenza, because you had brought up, and it made me think about it, Michael, the asparagus triggered this thought for me, because Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the predictable future and how we become emotionally addicted to anticipate the future based on our past.
Right.
And he said, if you take your attention away from what the predictable future is and you fall into the present moment, which I love that idea, and whether you take a pause, and then you fall into that present moment, it really does change the field, and you access that field of infinite possibilities. I think for me, that's what the pause does very profoundly. And I don't know if when you were a kid, and I had them, and I just bought one not that long ago because I love them, is a kaleidoscope. And I think that life is a lot like those kaleidoscopes. So it's a long tube, and it's got little glass particles, and it has a thing. And you turn the bottom, and as you're looking through this prism, the picture is constantly shifting and changing and revealing all kinds of new patterns. And if you've ever sat next to somebody and you're like, oh, my gosh, this is so cool, and you hand them the kaleidoscope, and they turn it just a little bit, they don't see the picture the same way that you did. And nobody, I think, sees that. But pausing allows us to actually see the beauty in every moment, no matter what it is, and then savor the nuances. So maybe they're not looking at the same thing that I just looked through because they made that little bit of a turn. But it doesn't mean that what they're seeing isn't equally as beautiful. And I think it's that connection, and it's that understanding, and that sometimes those pauses, and even pausing just to really appreciate that, like you don't want to move, you just want to savor all those little patterns in the kaleidoscope. It really does. And if you take that metaphor then and invite that sense of calmness and that, so I think almost like a centeredness into our lives, that pausing and the practice of pausing can empower us to make whatever conscious choices we need. And for ourselves, I think a lot of times we don't take that time to say, 3 deep breaths, is this really right for me? Everybody's going to be going skiing. Yeah, come. Well, maybe that's not the right thing at this time. And it's okay. As you said, you can't make the golf game today because something else more important came up, or something different that you needed to attend to, or just weren't feeling like getting your clubs and going out on the green. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, preferences. I like to say that it's much easier in life to literally state things as preferences. What you prefer to do. I prefer to going skiing. I prefer to do something different because that's where my interest is right now. It's where my interest lies. And I'll catch you guys the next time. I'll catch you around when you come back. a lot of times in seeking an identity for ourselves, we feel, there's obviously the FOMO, fear of missing out on something. However, if you really, if in your heart you're thinking, it's saying, nah, this isn't for me right now, you have to listen to that. You have to listen to what you're feeling, instead of negating that and then just going out and doing whatever. And I think we've talked about, basically listening to your intuition more than once on this show, listening to your heart, listening to what you're feeling, because that's incredibly important. You're not feeling it for no reason at all. You're feeling it because you're supposed to, right then and there. And you may be nudged by your guide, maybe being nudged by your guide at that point. And you have choices. You can choose this thing or you can choose that thing. Which one's going to bring you more excitement? Which one is going to benefit you more from a feelings perspective? You may have, you may want to go hear a piano player play a recital that weekend instead of going skiing. Something that is your heart is telling you should go and experience, right? And then you have the experience. You don't go skiing, you have the experience, and then you know why once the experience is over. You know why you were there, right? The connection that it made with you. And I know it's happened to me dozens of times. You think something is an accident, a coincidence, and you're there and you hear it and you're going, oh, man, that's amazing. I wasn't here to eat this food. I was here to listen to that. I was here to meet that person. I was here to connect with that vibration, that frequency at this particular point in my life. This is what I was supposed to do. And I go when I go to places and I hear people play music, or I hear I have a conversation with someone, or somebody is, I'll go and experience someone who I can see that they're a bit off, and I ask them, what's going on? Everything okay? I can take a second here. What's happening? And it's somebody I don't know, and they'll tell me, because they don't have anything invested in me. I'm a stranger. And people will tell strangers things that they don't tell people they know, because they know that person knows them and, knows their circle and tells somebody else. So they're very happy to open it up. In many cases, it just takes a few words of encouragement to, kind of move through whatever it is, and to help them move through whatever it is. They can buy. Nothing you tell somebody is actually something they have a preference or choice as to whether they're going to do it or not, and which is probably one of the most valuable things that I've heard this year. I've heard many valuable things, but the concept of letting someone imparting information and then letting them choose to apply it or not letting yourself get all emotionally wrapped up in whether they do or don't apply what you're suggesting, regardless of how bad they need it or how right you think you are. You see, it's easier. We have to release our attachment to attempting to control people, wanting to control people. And I've never been a parent, and there wasn't a life for being a parent. However, I know that when my parents, if I asked my mother if I could do something, as long as it wasn't something that was dangerous or illegal, she'd say, yeah, if that's what you want to try, and knock yourself out, And
I had the same type of mom.
Yeah,
We're very fortunate.
Regardless of whether she thought I would fail in it or succeed in it beyond my wildest dreams, it's like, you got to try it. If you don't know what you don't want in life, you're not going to be able to really hone in on what resonates with you. You got no contrast. And in my view, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to give a lot of parents that don't want to give their kids contrast, don't want them to see the negative in life, because they only want them to see the positive, which is not doing them any favor, because that's how you understand what you do and don't want in life, what you do want to experience and what you don't want to experience in life in the future, right? And if you prevent them from falling, they'll never know what falling feels like, or the ability, what the ability to recover from that feels like.
Right.
And in life, what we're going to do, 50 years from now, is we're going to laugh about falling and, cutting our chin. How many people do you know that you've come across and they've got a mark on the bottom of their chin, right? A scar.
For sure. Yeah. I've got actually skinned knees that show the testament of my both bike riding off a cliff, my handlebars getting bent, all kinds of things.
Falling down flat on your face, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I guess they're my battle scars, whatever you want to call them. But I think that's really the beauty of pausing too, Michael. Like as you said, you meet somebody and you share something. That's like being at a crossroads in your life. And life presents many crossroads to us. And I think when you take that moment, that power to pause, and you reflect, you look back, the journey that you had thus far, and you appreciate the milestones, what you learned from any of the detours that you had. Like as I look at my skin knees, they're never going to go away. But I look at it, and they inevitably bring a smile to my face. It just, I was a little bit of a daredevil kid, like you said. I don't think I have a scar on my chin, but I've broken my nose 4 times. So, that says something right there. Not always. Yeah.
Contrasting.
But it is. But it has never stopped me, and I think that when you pause and you look back in retrospect, you can kind of recalibrate, and then you go, okay, what future paths align with the personal growth and the fulfillment that I'm looking for in this lifetime? And I've been doing a lot of that. I've been like, okay, I've had all of these amazing experiences, and I feel so blessed and so grateful for each and every one of them. And every person that has come into my life and gifted me with a lesson or wisdom or whatever it is. And that's part of the reason I so enjoy this time with you, because there's so many nuances that come forth. And it's just such a gift. It really is such a gift.
Well, we wouldn't know because it's a chance to really share experiences that we've had and how and really relate to how closely those experiences are that we've had. And we didn't grow up together. People are you experience things in different ways. The beauty is being able, and you reach the same point on a different path. And that's the beauty of this that I like about this. That's what I love about this show. It's the beauty of it is we have so much in common. It's just like many of our listeners who I'm sure can relate to everything that we're saying right now, because we're talking about life. We're talking about things that occur, yet putting them in a perspective that can help, as I like to say, do it more intentionally. Right? You might pause, but maybe after listening to this show, you and our audience might think, oh, you know what? I'm going to do that more intentionally now. I'm going to bring that wrap that into my repertoire of living, and I'm going to take a pause and take a few breaths when things happen, especially when, we haven't talked about it yet, but when challenges happen in life, cross challenges, when the unfortunate or misfortunate occurs in our life to someone we know or to us personally, it is incredibly valuable to getting through it in a positive way, to pause and to think instead of maybe if someone's encouraging you to right now you have to go do this thing. I mean, if it's a matter of life and death in that moment, I can understand it. However, even taking a pause in that circumstance, be it a momentary pause to gather your thoughts and make sure that your thoughts are moving in the right direction, a positive direction, that you're seeing yourself as someone who can move through whatever it is you're dealing with in a positive way, instead of coming up with fear and worry and concern and angst and anxiety and all of that, experiencing those lower frequencies from whatever emergency you're dealing with at the time. There's a place for a pause in every situation, be it a momentary pause, a few seconds, a few minutes, an hour, a day, a week, whatever it takes. And especially, too, we talked about relationships once, but I can think of another place where it comes to pause. And this is the first thing I thought of, by the way, when you said pause. I'm going like, okay. First thing I thought of is when you get into, you have disagreements with people. When someone does something, says something, and you just start blurting out, your emotions get the best of you, and your volcano erupts right there in that moment, right? Your emotional volcano. Mm-hmm. It's a good idea to step away and breathe 3 or 4 times, take 3 or 4 deep breaths, and just pause and ask yourself, how important is it that I engage in this with this situation in a negative way? How important? What's the value, the relevance of doing that? Don't I respect this relationship I have more than just exploding or imploding on this person? And before we have an argument or before you say things that can't be taken back, good idea. And nowadays in the digital age with our younger viewers, it's before you send that text that's all caps.
Oh, for sure.
Pause for a second and say, okay, how valuable is this relationship to me that I need to be doing this? Do I just react to this? And how important is this thing that I'm reacting to in the overall scope of my life and the relationship I have with this person? I'm disagreeing with them, yes. However, that doesn't mean I need to enforce my will on them, impose my will on them, or my beliefs or whatever on this particular individual. They are someone who can make up their own mind, and I can make up mine as well. And that's another good use for a pause, to make sure that you're not ruining a relationship, a connection that you would that's valuable to you, that's relevant to you at this time in your life.
Absolutely. And I think along with that, Michael, is commenting on things. You see a lot of people will get into heated battles online, commenting on other people's comments and feeling triggered. And I think that when you pause, you pause and you say, okay, why am I being triggered by this? And it's a moment of self-correction. I can't emphasize that enough. I do it all the time. If I feel something is triggering me, and that pausing really does make a big difference in my world.
True. That's well said, by the way. And it's the pause gives your emotions an opportunity to settle. Number one, because they've been heightened, because they've been triggered, and we, in many cases, don't understand why the trigger occurred or what the trigger is. It's just something in our subconscious on our grid that's rising back to the surface again because it's similar. The situation perhaps is similar to something that we've experienced in the past that didn't make us feel very, right? And so yeah, absolutely. That pause is, in that case can mean the world to not only your own emotions but the people around you when you're instead of reacting or overreacting to a situation. You just step back from it.
Right, and in my situation with the story that I started the show with, I looked at it and I thought, well, why am I hurt? Am I feeling abandoned? Am I feeling left out? What exactly am I feeling? And what is, for me anyway, this is my own inner working. This is triggering me. It made me feel not happy. So how do I shift that? How do I do that 180 turn and really heal that aspect and go reflect back in my life when perhaps I was left behind or not asked to do something or somebody didn't show up? And so then the lesson that I recognize is I need to show up for myself and allow people that let go of any judgment, as you said, like who knows what the circumstances were. And it was such a silly thing. I said, he got wet because it started thunderstorming at his window down. And I thought, I just have to let it go. And to get that, he sent a video. He said, I can't believe he said, I didn't wake up. And it just happens. Stuff just happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't have to invest in it. I didn't send any opposite of positive text. I just was like, okay. And I actually gave me the time to find some music that I have not listened to and discovered a whole new realm. And then I was thinking in French because some of the music was French, and I haven't thought about some of my because I don't really have any opportunity to speak with somebody in French. And then so I was writing different things down, and then I was inspired. That's why I got on the computer like a silly nut and stayed up till 5:30 in the morning. I was creating different things.
You're amazing. Yeah, that I used to be that person.
But it's that pause, right?
Yeah.
It's that pause. Sure. It's that moment to self-correct. I want to feel good. I mean, I always think about Wayne Dyer. I want to feel good. I want to feel good. I want to feel good. I want to feel God. And he would say that. So, that's what I thought, geez, I think that if there's some value in this pause for me, perhaps our audience might find some value as well. And I so appreciate you, Michael, playing with me on this topic because it's just so fun.
No, the topic is awesome. I mean, I think it opens the door to a lot of different thought processes in each and every one of us. And the fact that you asked the question about your own feelings, that is that's a practice. That's a practice that we all should be engaged in. Is when we feel off, when we feel the opposite of positive, as you said a second ago. When you feel that way, asking why you do, pausing to ask yourself that question, and making sure that when you're engaged, before you engage with other people. This is, again, we haven't talked about this, but I mean, there are times when things happen that make you feel the opposite of positive, that take you to lower frequencies, and they have nothing to do with people you're about to engage with, yet you're carrying that energy. It's good to take a pause before you engage with someone else who's unassociated with the energy that was created within you from some other event. It's good to pause out and take some breaths and let that subside so that you're not carrying that energy, that low frequency energy, into the next connection, the next relational connection you have, or it could be a new connection. And people, we haven't talked about this, but it impacts your body language. When
Absolutely.
Operating off lower frequencies, it's scowl in the face, it's hunched over, walking differently.
Right.
It's your eyes are focused differently, you're speaking differently. Everything is basically you're a walking sandwich board of what's going on, inside of you, feelings wise. Not necessarily the thing that caused those feelings or led to them, but just you're letting other people know that you're upset about something, right? Which is why they say, what's going on with you? Are you upset about something upset you? Well, why do you think they'd ask that question? Because they can see it in your face, in the way you walk, and the way you carry yourself, and the tone of your voice. They can see it. And that's the impression they're going to have of you at that point if you're meeting somebody for the very first time. And, I think, in my view, social media and all that exist are successful because they represent a platform that people can complain on. People can put their worst inclinations on and have really without consequence, not knowing how it's going to impact someone else. It's just shooting a bunch of negativity out into the world, getting it off your chest, and, I feel better. I told, untold hundreds of people about this thing that happened to me that upset me, and somehow you feel everybody needs to know about it. When if you just took a pause and just a few breaths and asked yourself either why I feel this way and ferret it out that way before you connected, before you put it out to the world, you would likely put something different out to the world. I feel awesome.
Right. Yeah. And when you do that, you are empowering yourself. You are becoming a sovereign being. I mean, there's so many amazing things that come out of that. And you just stated it so beautifully, Michael. It just makes my heart sing.
I'm glad
Thank you so much.
Glad it does.
It does.
It does. I appreciate every moment with you on the show. And
likewise.
It makes my week, and you've done it again. Okay? To our listeners out there, thank you so much. Thank you.
Until next time. Thank you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.